The foreman was explaining the concrete pour schedule when my phone buzzed. I didn't recognize the urgency at first. Lily rarely called during school hours. Dad. Her voice broke on the single syllable. Dad, your wife, she found the key. Behind her words I heard it. Metal grinding. The garbage disposal running. Before we continue, tell me where you're watching from in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories reach. And if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe. New stories every day. Lily, what's happening? Mom's jewelry. She's putting it in the... A crash. Vanessa screaming something I couldn't make out. Then Lily again sobbing. She's crazy, Dad. She's completely crazy. I was 32 minutes from home. I knew the exact number because I'd driven that route 400 times in the 11 years I'd worked for Morrison Commercial. 32 minutes at normal speed. I could make it in 24 if I ignored the school zones. Lock yourself in the bathroom, I said. Don't come out until I get there. I called my father. He lived next door, had since my mother passed. Said he wanted to be close to his granddaughter. 3 rings. Nathan? Dad, I need you to go to my house right now. Vanessa's. Something's wrong. Lily called me. She's scared. I'm going, he said. I'm walking over now. I drove. The steering wheel was slick under my palms. I kept seeing Ellen's jewelry, the sapphire ring from our 10th anniversary, the pearl earrings from her grandmother, the gold bracelet I'd saved 6 months to buy when Lily was born. Ellen had worn that bracelet every day until she couldn't anymore, until the diagnosis made her fingers swell and her wrists go thin as kindling. 18 months. She'd been gone 18 months. I'd married Vanessa at 8 months. Too soon. I knew it even then. But she'd been there when Ellen was dying. A hospice volunteer, so kind, so patient. She'd held my hand at the funeral. She'd made dinners I couldn't eat and cleaned a house I couldn't see. And when she said she loved me, I mistook gratitude for something else. I pulled into the driveway at 4:47 p.m. My father's truck was parked at the curb. The front door was open. I found Vanessa in the hallway outside our bedroom, barefoot, hair tangled, chest heaving. She pointed past me toward the kitchen. That little bitch, she spat. She hid the key from me. For months, Nathan. Months. I'm your wife, and she treats me like... Where is she? Your precious daughter? Hiding. Like always. Poor little Lily. Her voice curdled into mockery. You know what she is? A manipulator. Just like her mother was. I walked past her. The bedroom door was open. The closet door was open. On the floor, in front of the dresser, the safe lay on its side. Open. Empty. The felt lining inside was navy blue. Ellen had picked that color. She said it made the gold look warmer. I turned around. Vanessa stood in the doorway, still breathing hard, a vein pulsing at her temple. Where are they? They're gone. She smiled. Not a real smile. Something else. They were just things, Nathan. Old things. You need to let go. You need to let her go. Down the hall, I heard a door open. Lily emerged from the bathroom. She was holding her left arm against her body. Blood seeped through her fingers. I crossed the hallway in 4 steps. What happened? She pushed me. Lily's voice was small, younger than 15. Into the dresser. Vanessa laughed. She tripped. She's clumsy, Nathan. You know that. I looked at the cut. 1 inch long, on her forearm. Not deep, but not shallow either. The corner of the dresser had a brass handle. It would leave a scar. Come on, I said to Lily. Bathroom. I cleaned the wound. Antiseptic, gauze, medical tape. The same supplies I'd used on my own cuts from job sites. Lily didn't cry. She watched my hands work and said nothing. When I finished, I took out my phone. What are you doing? Taking a picture. I photographed her arm, close up then wider to show context. I noted the time in my phone, 4:52 p.m. Dad. Lily's eyes were red but dry now. Where's Grandpa? I'd forgotten. He'd said he was coming over. His truck was outside. I found him in the living room. He was sitting on the couch, arms crossed, watching the muted television. He didn't look up when I entered. Dad, she's calmed down now, he said. It's over. Lily's hurt. Vanessa pushed her. Lily's sensitive, always has been. He finally looked at me. His expression was patient, the way it had been when I was 12 and came home crying because the other boys wouldn't let me play. Vanessa's under a lot of stress, Nathan. Being a stepmother isn't easy. Did you see the safe? I saw it. Everything's gone. Ellen's jewelry, all of it. He sighed, the sigh of a man who'd heard enough. Things can be replaced. Those were Ellen's. Ellen's dead. He said it flatly without cruelty, which made it worse. You need to think about your marriage now. You need to think about the living. I stood there, in my own living room, in the house I'd bought with my first wife, and I understood something. My father wasn't going to help me. Maybe he never had been. I walked back to the bedroom. Vanessa was sitting on the bed now, composed, scrolling through her phone. She looked up and smiled, the warm smile, the hospice volunteer smile. I'm sorry I lost my temper, she said. You know how I get when I'm stressed. Where are they, Vanessa? I told you, gone. The disposal can't destroy metal. Where did you put them? Her smile didn't waver. Maybe you should ask Lily. She's the one who's been hiding things. I went to the closet. The safe was a small one, fireproof, with a key lock. I'd bought it 2 weeks after Ellen was diagnosed, when she started talking about making sure Lily got her things. The key had lived in my nightstand for 18 months. Then, when Vanessa moved in, I'd hidden it, behind the tax folders in my home office, 3rd drawer down. I'd never told anyone. I walked to the office. The drawer was open. The folders were pushed aside. I went back to the bedroom. How did you find the key? Vanessa tilted her head. Find what? The key, Vanessa. It wasn't in the nightstand. I don't know what you're talking about. She stood, stretched, checked her phone again. I'm going to start dinner. Your father's probably hungry. She walked past me. Her shoulder brushed mine. I smelled her perfume, jasmine, too sweet, and beneath it, something else. I went to the kitchen, looked in the disposal knowing I wouldn't find anything. Checked the trash, emptied, bag replaced. Checked the recycling bin in the garage. At the bottom, beneath cardboard and plastic bottles, I found them. 3 pieces, bent and scratched. The pearl earrings, 1 pearl missing, the post mangled. The gold bracelet, clasp broken, links gouged. The sapphire ring. The sapphire ring was gone. I photographed what I found. Time stamped. Then I sat in my truck in the driveway while the March sky went dark. Through the kitchen window I could see them, Vanessa at the stove, my father at the table, Lily nowhere, a family dinner I wasn't part of, the key, the hiding spot. I'd never told anyone, but someone had known. I thought about the last 8 months, Vanessa asking about finances, my father stopping by during the day when I was at work to check on Lily, he said, the 2 of them talking quietly, going silent when I entered a room. I thought about Ellen, the bracelet on her wrist in the hospital, the day before she died. Make sure Lily gets them, she'd said. Promise me. I'd promised, and I'd failed. My phone buzzed. My father. Dinner's ready. You coming in? I didn't answer. I started the truck and drove, not far, just to the parking lot of the Methodist church 3 blocks away, empty on a Tuesday night. I sat there for an hour, maybe more, watching the steeple go black against the sky. When I got home, the kitchen was clean. Vanessa was in bed reading. My father was gone. Lily's door was closed, light off. I checked the recycling bin again. The damaged jewelry was gone. I searched the garage, the basement, the yard. Nothing. At 11:40 p.m., I sat at the kitchen table with a legal pad and a pen. I wrote down everything. Times, words, observations, what I'd seen, what I'd heard, what was missing. At the top of the page, I wrote, March 11th, 2019. At the bottom, I wrote a question, the only one that mattered. Who told her where the key was? I already knew the answer. I waited 3 days before I talked to my father. 3 days of Vanessa humming in the kitchen. 3 days of her hand on my shoulder at dinner, her voice soft and solicitous. You seem tired, Nathan. You're working too hard. 3 days of Lily eating in her room, the cut on her arm scabbing over into a dark crescent. On Saturday morning, I walked next door. My father was in his garage, reorganizing his tools. a ritual he performed whenever he wanted to avoid thinking. I recognized it because I did the same thing. "Nathan." He didn't turn around. "Coffee's on if you want some. I need to talk to you about Tuesday." He placed a wrench on the pegboard, adjusted its position by a 1/4 inch. "What's there to talk about?" Vanessa destroyed Ellen's jewelry. She hurt Lily. She got overwhelmed. It happens. "Dad." I stepped closer. "Lily has a gash on her arm." He finally turned. His face was the same patient mask I'd seen 1,000 times, the expression that meant the conversation was over before it started. "Lily's dramatic," he said. "Always has been. Gets it from her mother." Something cold moved through my chest. Ellen wasn't dramatic. Ellen was a saint, I know. You remind me every chance you get. He wiped his hands on a rag, slow and deliberate. "But she's gone, Nathan. And Vanessa is here. She's trying. You need to meet her halfway. She stole from me. She's your wife. You share everything. Those were Ellen's. They were supposed to go to Lily." He tossed the rag onto the workbench. "Lily's 15. She doesn't need sapphire rings. She needs a stable home. 2 parents who aren't at each other's throats." He looked at me, and for a moment I thought I saw something like concern. Then it was gone. "Let it go, son. For everyone's sake." I left without the coffee. That afternoon I took the trash out. Our bin was at the curb. The recycling had been emptied by the truck on Thursday, contents gone forever. But as I turned to go back inside, I saw it. A crumpled receipt on the garage floor, near the door to the house. It must have fallen when Vanessa took out the kitchen trash. I picked it up, smoothed it flat. Volunteer locksmith and key. March 2nd, 2019. 1 key duplicate. $4, 75s. Cash, March 2nd, 9 days before the incident. I photographed the receipt, then folded it into my wallet. That night after Vanessa went to bed, I knocked on Lily's door. Yeah, she was sitting on her bed, laptop open, headphones around her neck. The cut on her arm was visible below her sleeve. She hadn't tried to hide it. That told me something. "Can I see your phone?" She didn't ask why, just handed it over. "I need you to show me any messages from Vanessa. Anything she sent you that seemed off." Lily took the phone back, scrolled for a minute, then handed it to me again. The thread was from January, 2 months before the incident. Vanessa: "Hey, sweetie, is your dad home?" Lily: "No, at work." Vanessa: "Perfect. Your grandpa's coming over to help me with something. Don't mention it to your dad, okay? It's a surprise for his birthday." Lily: "Okay." Lily: "His birthday's in September, though." Days in Vanessa: "I like to plan ahead." I scrolled further. Another thread. 3 weeks later. Vanessa: "Grandpa's coming by again today. Same deal. Our little secret. Your dad works so hard, we don't want to bother him with every little thing." Lily: "Okay." Lily: "What are you guys planning?" Vanessa: "You'll see. It's going to be great." I looked at Lily. "Did you ever see what they were doing?" "No. I stayed in my room." She pulled at a thread on her comforter. "I didn't think anything was weird. I just thought, I don't know, that she was actually trying to be nice for once." I handed the phone back. "Screenshot those. Email them to me. Dad." She looked up. Her eyes were Ellen's, brown, steady, older than they should be. "What's going on?" "I don't know yet." I did know. I just couldn't say it out loud. The next Monday, I stopped at a hardware store on my way home from work. Bought a motion-activated camera, the kind you mount for security. Small, wireless, with an app that sent footage to my phone. I installed it in the garage that night, behind a can of wood stain on the top shelf. The lens pointed toward the door to the house and the driveway entrance. Vanessa never went into the garage. I was certain of that. Her car stayed in the driveway, and she complained about the smell of sawdust. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself there was probably an explanation, that my father was just helping her with something innocent, that the locksmith receipt was for a different key, that I was letting grief turn me into someone suspicious and cold. I told myself that for 6 days. On Sunday, my phone buzzed at 2:15 p.m. I was at a job site in West Knoxville, checking a retaining wall. The camera app notification, motion detected. I opened the footage. My father's truck pulled into the driveway. He got out, walked to the garage's side door, knocked twice. The door opened. Vanessa, in jeans and a sweater, hair pulled back. She smiled at him. Not the hospice smile. Something warmer. He stepped inside. They stood close, talking. I couldn't hear the words. The camera had no microphone, but I could see their faces. Familiar. Comfortable. My father laughed at something she said, and she touched his arm. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. Brown, letter-sized, bulging slightly. He handed it to her. She opened it, looked inside, nodded. Said something. He nodded back. They both laughed again. The footage ended. Total runtime, 53 seconds. I sat in my truck and watched it 4 times. The envelope, the laughter, the way she touched his arm. I thought about what could be in that envelope. Cash, maybe from the jewelry he'd taken from the recycling bin. Documents, maybe something about the house, the will, Ellen's estate. Instructions, maybe for whatever came next. I didn't know, and not knowing was the worst part. That night, I came home at the usual time. Vanessa was making pot roast. My favorite, she said, though it was actually Ellen's recipe, and she'd never gotten it right. My father was at the table, drinking a beer, telling Lily about a fishing trip he'd taken in 1987. Everything normal, everything fine. I sat down. Vanessa brought the food. My father said grace. He'd never said grace when my mother was alive. But Vanessa went to church, so now we all bowed our heads. Amen, Vanessa said. Amen, my father said. Lily said nothing. I said nothing. I looked at my father across the table. 67 years old, retired from the electric company, widowed for 5 years. I'd always thought I knew him. Hard, but fair. Distant, but dependable. The kind of man who showed up, even when he didn't say much. Now I looked at him and saw a stranger. After dinner, I helped Vanessa clear the table. She brushed against me at the sink, leaned her head on my shoulder for a moment. I'm glad we're past that ugliness, she said. I really am sorry, Nathan. I don't know what came over me. It's fine. I want us to be happy. I want Lily to be happy. That's all I've ever wanted. I dried a plate, set it in the cabinet, dried another. Nathan, yeah, you believe me, don't you? I turned to look at her. Her eyes were wide, sincere, the hospice eyes. The eyes that had watched Ellen die and held my hand at the funeral and made casseroles I couldn't eat. Sure, I said. I believe you. She smiled and kissed my cheek. I went to the garage, checked the camera. Still in place, still recording. The footage from earlier was saved to my phone, backed up to a cloud folder I'd created that morning. I'd labeled it Work Documents. Vanessa never asked about my work. I stood in the garage for a long time, smelling sawdust and motor oil, looking at the shelf where I'd hidden the camera. Such a small thing. A lens the size of a fingertip, and behind it, 53 seconds that had changed everything. I thought about the next step. I could confront them, show my father the footage, demand answers. But I knew what would happen. Denials, explanations. My father's patient voice. You're overreacting, Nathan. You're seeing things that aren't there. I needed more. I needed to know what was in that envelope. I needed to know what they were planning. I needed proof that couldn't be explained away or dismissed. I needed to be patient. In the kitchen, through the window, I could see Vanessa pouring wine. My father was back at the table, telling another story. Lily had retreated to her room. The light was warm, the scene domestic. A family, but not mine. Not anymore. I closed the garage door and went back inside. Smiled at my father. Accepted a glass of wine from my wife. Sat in my living room in my house that I'd bought with my first wife and listened to them talk about nothing. And I waited. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon. Lily's school. Mr. Cole, we wanted to confirm the appointment for Lily's guidance counselor meeting tomorrow at 10 a.m. I was on a ladder, checking flashing on a medical office we were building in Farragut. What meeting? A pause. The meeting your wife scheduled. She and your father came in last week to discuss Lily's academic concerns. They requested a follow-up. I climbed down. I wasn't informed about any of this. Another pause, longer. I see. Well, the appointment is set. You're welcome to attend. I didn't attend. I couldn't. We were pouring a foundation that morning, and Morrison had made it clear. No more mistakes. But I called the school afterward and asked for details. Vanessa and my father had met with the counselor, the vice principal, and a representative from a boarding school in Virginia. They'd discussed Lily's behavioral issues and difficulty adjusting to the new family structure. They'd requested a formal evaluation. No one had called me. No one had asked for my consent. That night, I confronted Vanessa. It was just exploratory, she said. She was folding laundry, her movements calm and methodical. Your father thought it would be good to get professional opinions. My father doesn't make decisions about my daughter. Our daughter, Nathan. She looked up, smiled. I'm her stepmother. That means something. You've been her stepmother for 8 months. And in those 8 months, I've seen things you haven't. You're at work all day. I'm here. I see how she isolates herself, how she refuses to engage. She needs structure, routine. She folded a towel, set it on the pile. She needs help. I found Lily in her room. She was sitting at her desk, staring at a textbook she wasn't reading. Did you know about the school meeting? She nodded without looking up. Why didn't you tell me? Vanessa said you were too busy. She said you'd approved it. I sat on the edge of her bed. The comforter was the one Ellen had picked out, lavender with small white flowers. Lily had refused to change it. I didn't approve anything, I said. I didn't know. Lily turned then. Her eyes were dry, but something in them had hardened. They want to send me away. That's not going to happen. Grandpa said it would be good for me. He said I remind you too much of Mom, and that's not healthy for anyone. The words landed like stones in still water. I felt the ripples move through me, slow and cold. He said that? Lily nodded. I left her room without another word. Went to the garage, sat in my truck and stared at the closed door for a long time. My father. My own father. I thought about calling him, demanding an explanation. But I knew what he'd say. I'm trying to help. You're too close to see it. Lily needs a fresh start. You all do. He'd been saying versions of that since Ellen died. Move on. Let go. Stop living in the past. And I'd listened. Because he was my father. Because I thought he wanted what was best for me. Now I understood. He wanted what was best for him. The next week, I found the credit card statement. Vanessa had left it on the kitchen counter, maybe by accident, maybe not. A Visa I didn't recognize. The account was in her name, but the cosigner was Frank Cole. I photographed every page. Charges going back 3 months. Furniture stores, jewelry shops, a spa in Gatlinburg, restaurants I'd never been to. The balance was $11,400. My father was funding her, or she was spending his money. Either way, they were entangled in ways I hadn't imagined. I added the statement to my folder. The folder was getting thick. At work, things were slipping. I couldn't concentrate. I'd look at blueprints and see the locksmith receipt. I'd calculate load tolerances and think about the envelope my father had handed Vanessa in the garage. On the Morrison Medical Center project, I made a mistake. It was a Thursday, late April. We were pouring the foundation for the east wing. 60 yards of concrete, 3 trucks, a 12-man crew. I'd calculated the rebar spacing the night before, working at the kitchen table while Vanessa watched television. I got it wrong. Not by much. 1/2 inch over the allowed tolerance on the perimeter beams. But 1/2 inch in a medical building in a seismic zone is enough to fail inspection. Enough to require a full tear-out and re-pour. Enough to cost Morrison $180,000 and 3 weeks of delays. The engineer caught it before we finished, pulled me aside, showed me the drawings, showed me my notes. Nathan, what the hell happened? I looked at the numbers, my handwriting, my calculations, and there it was. A simple arithmetic error, the kind of mistake a first-year apprentice would make. I don't know, I said. He stared at me for a long moment. Then he sighed. I'm going to fix this. I'm going to tell Morrison it was a drafting error in the original specs. But Nathan, he lowered his voice. This can't happen again. You understand? One more, and you're done. I understood. That night I didn't go home. I drove to a park by the river and sat on a bench until dark. Watched the water move south, slow and black, carrying leaves and trash toward the lake. I was losing everything. My daughter, my job, my house, my mind, and my father was helping it happen. I got home at 9 p.m. Vanessa was already in bed. Lily's door was closed. The house was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. I went to the garage. In the corner, behind the lawnmower, there was a plastic storage bin I hadn't opened since the move. Ellen's things. Not the jewelry, I'd kept that in the safe, but papers, tax returns, medical records, legal documents. I'd shoved them all in there after she died, unable to look at them, unable to throw them away. I opened the bin. It smelled like dust and old paper. I dug through folders, envelopes, receipts, and there, at the bottom, in a plastic sleeve, I found it. The insurance appraisal. Ellen had done it 2 years before she died, when we'd upgraded our homeowner's policy. A full inventory of her jewelry, with photographs, descriptions, and estimated values. The appraiser's letterhead was from a shop in West Knoxville. The date was August 2017. I sat on the garage floor and read every page. The sapphire ring, $6,200. The pearl earrings, $1,800. The gold bracelet, $2,400. The diamond pendant I'd forgotten about, $300. 3 other pieces, a brooch, a pair of studs, a silver locket, totaling $700. Total value, $14,200. I photographed every page. Close-ups of the jewelry, the descriptions, the values. I emailed the photos to myself, then uploaded them to the cloud folder. $14,200. That's what Vanessa had destroyed. That's what my father had helped her take. I thought about the credit card balance, $11,400. Close enough to the jewelry's value to make me wonder, had they sold the pieces already? Pawned them? Used the money to fund her shopping sprees and spa weekends? I didn't know yet, but I would find out. I put the appraisal back in the plastic sleeve, then moved it to my truck. Locked in the toolbox, bolted to the bed. Vanessa never went near my truck. My father had no reason to. It was almost midnight when I went inside. The house was dark. I stood in the kitchen, looking out the window at my father's house next door. His porch light was on, the way it always was, the way it had been since my mother died, and he started leaving it on because he said the dark bothered him. I used to think that was loneliness. Now I thought it was something else. I got a glass of water and sat at the kitchen table. The legal pad was still there, in the drawer where I kept it. I took it out and added to the list. April 24th. School meeting without my knowledge or consent. Boarding school discussed. April 29th. Credit card statement. Vanessa. Co-signed by Frank. Balance $11,400. May 2. Foundation error at Morrison. Almost fired. May 2. Found insurance appraisal. Total jewelry value, $14,200. I looked at the list. 2 months of entries. Dates, amounts, observations, a record of everything I'd lost and everything they'd taken. It wasn't enough. Not yet. But it was a start. I put the pad away and went to bed. Vanessa was asleep, or pretending to be. I lay beside her in the dark and listened to her breathe. 8 months. I'd been married to her for 8 months. I thought about Ellen, the way she'd laughed, the way she'd held Lily as a baby, the way she'd looked at me on our wedding day like I was the only solid thing in the world. I thought about the bracelet. She'd worn it every day, even in the hospital, even when it didn't fit right anymore. She'd worn it. "It's my favorite," she'd said, "because you gave it to me when we became a family. Gone now. Bent and scratched and thrown away, but not forgotten." I closed my eyes. Tomorrow I'd call the insurance company. I'd get copies of the policy, the claim procedures, the legal requirements for reporting theft. I'd find out what my options were, and then I'd start using them. The attorney's name was Ruth Kellerman. She worked out of a small office on Gay Street, 3rd floor, no receptionist. A colleague at Morrison had used her for his divorce, said she was thorough, discreet, and didn't waste time. I sat across from her desk on a Wednesday afternoon, my folder in my lap. She was in her 60s, gray hair cut short, reading glasses on a chain around her neck. She didn't smile when I came in. I liked that. "Tell me what happened," she said. I told her. The jewelry, the key, the locksmith receipt, Lily's injury, the school meeting, the credit card, the garage footage, the insurance appraisal. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she put on her glasses and held out her hand. "Let me see what you have." I gave her the folder. She went through it slowly, page by page, the photographs, the receipts, the screenshots of Lily's messages, the credit card statement, the appraisal. "You've been thorough," she said. I didn't know what else to do. She closed the folder. "Here's where we are. You have grounds for civil action, conversion of property, which is essentially theft of personal belongings. The jewelry was yours, inherited from your late wife, documented and appraised. Your current wife took it without consent and either destroyed or sold it. That's actionable. What about criminal charges? Possible, but harder. Spouses have complicated property rights. A prosecutor might decline to pursue it unless you can prove sale for profit." She tapped the folder. "If she sold even one piece, and you can document it, that changes things. That's appropriation. That's a Class A misdemeanor in Tennessee, possibly a felony depending on value." The total was $14,200. Over $10,000 is a Class C felony, theft of property. She looked at me over her glasses. "But I'll be honest with you, Mr. Cole. Criminal cases are slow, uncertain, and public. You'll be in the newspaper. Your daughter will be in the newspaper. Is that what you want?" I thought about Lily, the cut on her arm, the way she'd looked at me when she said they want to send me away. "No. Then we focus on civil remedies. Restitution, divorce settlement, protective orders if necessary. We build a case so strong that your wife and your father have no choice but to comply." She paused. "You mentioned your father is involved." "He co-signed her credit card. He's been meeting with her when I'm at work. He helped her talk to Lily's school without telling me." "Is he a co-owner of your home?" "No. I bought it with Ellen. His name was never on it." "Good. That simplifies things." She made a note. "What do you want, Mr. Cole? At the end of this, what does resolution look like for you?" I'd thought about that question for weeks. At first, I'd wanted confrontation. I'd wanted to stand in front of my father and ask him why. I'd wanted to see Vanessa's face when she realized she'd been caught. But that wasn't what I wanted anymore. I want the jewelry back, or the money. I want a divorce, and I want my daughter safe. Ruth nodded. "Then that's what we'll work toward." She gave me homework. Document everything going forward. Dates, times, witnesses. Open a separate bank account and redirect my paycheck. Move Lily to my health insurance only. Cancel any joint credit cards. Communicate with Vanessa in writing whenever possible. Email, text, to create a record. "And find that jewelry," she said. "If she sold it, there's a trail. Pawn shops keep records. Online marketplaces have seller histories. Find one piece, and the rest will follow." I started that night. I searched online marketplaces for hours. eBay, Facebook, Craigslist, regional resale apps. I used keywords from the appraisal. Sapphire ring, oval cut, platinum band, 1-2 carats. I scrolled through hundreds of listings, most of them nothing close. On the third night, I found it. A regional marketplace called Southern Finds. The listing was 3 weeks old. Oval sapphire ring, platinum band, size 6. The photo showed the ring on a white cloth, slightly out of focus, but clear enough to see the setting. And there, on the inside of the band, the small mark where the jeweler had adjusted the size for Ellen's finger. I knew that mark. I'd been there when they made it. The listing price was $3,800. The seller was in Knoxville. I took screenshots. The listing, the photos, the timestamp, the seller's username, the location. I saved them to my cloud folder, then printed hard copies and added them to the folder for Ruth. The next morning I called her. "I found the ring, online marketplace. It's definitely Ellen's. Don't contact the seller. Don't try to buy it. Just send me everything you have." She paused. "This is good, Mr. Cole. This is what we needed." That afternoon I went to the bank, opened a new checking account in my name only, and set up direct deposit for my paycheck starting the next pay period. The teller asked if I wanted to close the joint account. I said not yet. I didn't want to alert Vanessa before I was ready. Then I went to Lily's school, met with the registrar, showed my ID, and updated the emergency contacts. Removed Vanessa, removed my father, added Ellen's sister in Chattanooga, Lily's aunt, who'd offered to help after the funeral, and whom I'd barely spoken to since. "We'll need Mrs. Cole's consent to remove her," the registrar said. "She's not Lily's legal guardian. I am. I have sole custody." The registrar checked the file, made a call, came back. "You're right. I apologize." The The file will be updated today. That night, I moved Lily to my health insurance, called the provider, explained the situation, filled out the forms online. Vanessa wouldn't know until she tried to use the card, and by then, it wouldn't matter. I was dismantling the structure piece by piece. Every thread that connected Vanessa to my life, to Lily's life, I was cutting, quietly, methodically, without confrontation. It felt like building something, the way I'd built houses and offices and medical centers for 20 years. One step at a time, following the plan, trusting the process. On Friday, I wrote the email. I sat in my truck in the parking lot of a gas station, typed it on my phone, read it 3 times, and hit send. Vanessa, I'm aware that items from the safe, specifically jewelry belonging to my late wife, were taken without my consent and have not been returned. I have documentation including photographs, appraisals, and evidence of sale. I'm requesting full restitution within 30 days, return of all items, or payment of $14,200, which reflects the appraised value. If restitution is not made, I will pursue civil and potentially criminal remedies. Additionally, I am filing for divorce. You will receive formal paperwork next week. I've copied my attorney on this message, Nathan. I didn't expect a reply. I didn't get one. But on Saturday morning, my father called. Nathan, we need to talk. About what? You know about what. This email you sent Vanessa. You've upset her. You've upset me. I don't have anything to say to you. I'm your father. Yes, you are. He was quiet for a moment. Come over. Let's sit down like adults and figure this out. There's nothing to figure out. She stole from me. You helped her. Now there are consequences. Consequences. He laughed, a short, hard sound. You sound like a lawyer. I have a lawyer. Nathan. His voice shifted, the way it did when I was a kid, and he wanted me to understand something important. You're making a mistake. Vanessa loves you. I'm trying to help you. If you go through with this, you'll regret it. I already regret it. I regret marrying her. I regret trusting you. I paused. I regret not protecting Ellen's things the way I should have. He didn't say anything. Goodbye, Dad. I hung up. That afternoon, Vanessa went shopping. I knew because she posted about it on Facebook, a photo of her at a department store, holding up a dress, smiling. Retail therapy, the caption said. An hour later, my phone buzzed. A notification from my credit card company. Transaction declined. I'd cancelled the joint card that morning. Vanessa came home at 4 p.m. I was in the garage, organizing tools I didn't need to organize. I heard her car pull in, the door slam, her footsteps on the concrete. She appeared in the doorway. Her face was flushed, her eyes hard. The card didn't work. I know. What did you do? I canceled it. She stared at me. For a moment, I saw something behind the anger. Confusion, maybe, or the beginning of fear. She wasn't used to this. She wasn't used to me pushing back. You can't do that. I can. I did. I'm your wife, Nathan. Not for long. She stood there, breathing hard, hands clenched at her sides. I waited for the explosion, the screaming, the accusations, the tears. The performance I'd seen the day she destroyed the jewelry. But it didn't come. Instead, she smiled. The hospice smile, strained at the edges. You're going to regret this, she said. Your father warned me about you. He said you'd do something like this. He was right. She turned and walked into the house. The door closed behind her. I stood in the garage, heart pounding, hands steady. The first real consequence had landed. There would be more. I looked at the shelf where the camera was hidden, still recording, still watching. Let her smile. Let her plan. Let her talk to my father. I had the ring. I had the evidence. I had the lawyer, and I had time. I chose my father's house for a reason. Neutral ground, but his territory. He'd feel safe there, in control. And when he realized he wasn't, it would land harder. I called him on a Tuesday morning. I want to meet. You, me, Vanessa. Tonight, 7 p.m., your place. What's this about? You know what it's about. He was quiet for a moment. Fine. 7 o'clock. I spent the afternoon preparing Printed fresh copies of everything, the appraisal, the ring listing with timestamps, the locksmith receipt, the credit card statements, the screenshots of Lily's messages. I put the garage footage on a thumb drive. I organized it all in a manila folder, documents in order, labeled with tabs. Ruth had offered to come. I'd declined. This wasn't a legal proceeding. This was something else. At 6:45 p.m., I drove to my father's house. His truck was in the driveway. Vanessa's car was parked at the curb. Through the front window, I could see them in the living room. My father in his recliner, Vanessa on the couch, both of them watching the door. I went in without knocking. The house smelled the way it always had. Coffee, wood polish, the faint mustiness of old furniture. My mother's quilt was still on the back of the couch. Her china was still in the cabinet by the window. 5 years since she'd died, and my father hadn't changed a thing. Nathan. He stood, gestured to the armchair across from him. Sit down. I stayed standing. This won't take long. Vanessa was perched on the edge of the couch, legs crossed, hands folded in her lap. She was wearing makeup, lipstick, a blouse I'd never seen before, dressed for the occasion. Nathan, she said, her voice soft, I'm glad we're doing this. I think there's been a lot of misunderstanding, and I want to clear the air. I set the folder on the coffee table between us. This isn't a conversation, I said. This is a presentation. When I'm done, I'll tell you what happens next. My father's jaw tightened. Now wait a minute. Sit down, Dad. He sat. I opened the folder, took out the first document, the insurance appraisal, and placed it on the table, facing them. This is a certified appraisal of Ellen's jewelry, completed in August 2017. Total value, $14,200. Photographs, descriptions, and estimated prices for each piece. The original is with my attorney. Vanessa glanced at it, then looked away. My father didn't move. I placed the next document. This is a receipt from Volunteer Locksmith, dated March 2nd, 9 days before you opened the safe. 1 key duplicated. Paid cash. That could be anyone's receipt, Vanessa said. It was in our recycling bin. I photographed it in place before I removed it. I placed the next document. The screenshots of the ring listing on Southern Finds. This is Ellen's sapphire ring, listed for sale 3 weeks after you took it. The timestamp is visible. So is the sizing mark on the inside of the band. I was there when the jeweler made it. I looked at Vanessa. The listing is still active. The seller is in Knoxville. Her face didn't change, but her hands tightened in her lap. I placed the credit card statement. This is a Visa account in your name, co-signed by my father. Balance, $11,400. Charges include furniture, jewelry, a spa in Gatlinburg, and multiple restaurant meals. I looked at my father. You've been funding her lifestyle, or she's been spending your money. Either way, you're both liable. My father leaned forward. Now hold on. I co-signed that card as a favor. I didn't know what she was charging. You knew enough to meet with her twice a week while I was at work. You knew enough to hand her an envelope in my garage while you both laughed about something. His face went slack. What? I took out the thumb drive, held it up. I have a camera in the garage, motion activated. I have footage of you handing Vanessa an envelope on April 12th. I don't know what was in it, but I can guess. It was cash, Vanessa said. Her voice was flat now, the softness gone. He was lending me money, that's all. For what? She didn't answer. I placed the last documents, the screenshots of Lily's messages, Vanessa telling her not to mention the visits, calling it a surprise. You coordinated with my daughter to hide what you were doing. You met with her school without my knowledge. You discussed sending her to a boarding school in Virginia. I looked at my father. And you told her I needed to let go of Ellen, that Lily reminds me too much of her mother. He didn't deny it. I closed the folder and straightened. Here's what happens now. Vanessa, you have 2 options. Option 1, return all jewelry or pay $14,200 within 30 days. Sign the divorce papers without contesting assets. Leave my house by the end of the month. I paused. Option 2, I file a civil suit for conversion of property. I provide this evidence to the Knox County DA and request criminal charges for theft over $10,000, which is a Class C felony. The ring listing alone is enough for appropriation. Vanessa's lips parted. She looked at my father. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, and rubbed his face with both hands. When he looked up, his eyes were tired. "Nathan, son, let's not do this. Let's work it out like family." "We're not family. Not anymore. I'm your father. You chose her." The words hung in the air. He didn't argue. Vanessa stood. "This is ridiculous. You can't prove I sold anything. You can't prove Frank knew what I was doing. You have a receipt and some screenshots. That's not evidence, that's harassment." My attorney disagrees. "Your attorney wants your money. My attorney wants justice. So do I." She stepped closer. Her perfume reached me. Jasmine, too sweet. "Nathan, listen to me. I know you're grieving. I know you're confused. But I'm not your enemy. I loved Ellen too. I was there when she died, remember? I held her hand. I held yours." I looked at her, the hospice eyes, the soft voice, the performance. "You held her hand," I said, "and then you stole her jewelry. You hurt her daughter. You lied to me for 8 months." I stepped back. "I'm done listening to you." The front door opened. Lily stood in the doorway. She was wearing her school jacket, backpack over one shoulder. She must have walked. Her school was 6 blocks away, and she sometimes cut through the park to get to her grandfather's house. She looked at Vanessa. "At my father. At me, Lily," my father said. He stood, moved toward her. "Sweetheart, this isn't—" "I heard you," she said. Her voice was quiet, steady. I was on the porch. I heard everything. My father stopped. "Lily, let me explain. You told Dad I remind him too much of Mom. You said that's not healthy." She looked at him, and her eyes were dry but hard. "You said I should go away. That's not what I meant. That's what you said." He reached for her arm. She stepped back. "Don't." The word was small, but it filled the room. She looked at him for a long moment, 5 seconds, maybe 6. I counted them in my heartbeat. Then she turned and walked out the door. My father stood there, hand still extended, reaching for nothing. I picked up the folder. 30 days, I said. "For both of you." I left without closing the door. Lily was waiting by my truck. She didn't look at me as I approached, just stared at the house, at the window where my father was now visible, standing motionless in the living room. "You okay?" She shook her head. "Come on, I'll drive you home." We got in the truck. I started the engine but didn't move. The sun was going down, the sky turning orange and pink over the trees. A cardinal landed on the fence post at the edge of my father's yard, head tilted, watching us. "Dad," Lily said. "Yeah. Is Grandpa going to be okay?" I thought about the question. About what okay meant. About whether my father deserved my concern, my forgiveness, my pity. "I don't know," I said. She nodded, like that was the answer she expected. I put the truck in gear and drove us home. The divorce was finalized on a Thursday in June. 93 days from the night I'd presented the folder at my father's house. 93 days of paperwork, negotiations, waiting. Ruth handled most of it. I signed where she told me to sign and tried not to think too much about what each signature meant. Vanessa didn't contest. Her attorney sent a letter the week after the confrontation. She would comply with all terms. Return of jewelry, payment for items sold, uncontested divorce, vacate the residence by June 30th. She was gone by June 15th. I came home from work, and her car wasn't in the driveway. Her clothes were out of the closet. Her toiletries were gone from the bathroom. The jasmine perfume smell lingered for a few days, then faded. She left the wedding ring on the kitchen counter. I put it in a drawer and didn't look at it again. The jewelry came back in pieces. First, a padded envelope in the mail. The pearl earrings, one still missing its pearl, the post still bent. The gold bracelet, clasp repaired, but the links were scratched, the metal dulled. I held the bracelet in my palm and remembered Ellen wearing it in the hospital, turning it around her thin wrist, saying it's my favorite. I put them in the safe. New safe, new code, digital, no key. The sapphire ring didn't come back. Vanessa's attorney sent a cashier's check for $6,200, the appraised value. The ring had already sold by the time I found the listing. Some stranger in Knoxville was wearing it now, or had given it to someone, or had resold it for a profit. I'd never know. I deposited the check and didn't think about the ring. Thinking about it didn't help. My father paid his debt 3 weeks after the confrontation. I found the deposit when I checked my account online. $1,400 transferred from his bank. No memo. No message. He didn't call to tell me he'd done it. He didn't call at all. I thought about calling him. Thought about driving over, knocking on his door, asking him why. Why Vanessa? Why the secrecy? Why he'd chosen her over his own son, his own granddaughter. But I knew the answers wouldn't satisfy me. They'd be excuses, justifications, rationalizations. He'd tell me he was lonely. He'd tell me Vanessa made him feel needed. He'd tell me I was too wrapped up in grief to see what was good for me. He'd tell me everything except the truth, that he'd wanted something for himself, and he hadn't cared who he hurt to get it. So I didn't call, and he didn't call, and the silence between us grew solid, like concrete setting. Lily asked about him once in July. We were eating dinner, takeout from a Thai place she liked, because I still couldn't cook Ellen's recipes without feeling like I was doing them wrong. She was picking at her pad Thai, pushing the noodles around with her fork. Is Grandpa okay? I don't know. I haven't talked to him. Are you going to? I set down my fork. Do you want me to? She thought about it. Really thought, the way Ellen used to. Careful, deliberate, turning the question over before answering. No, she said finally. I just wanted to know if you were. I'm not. She nodded and went back to her noodles. We didn't talk about him again. The summer passed slowly, the way summers do when you're waiting for something to end. I went to work, came home, made dinners Lily didn't eat, watched television I didn't see. The Morrison project finished on time. The engineer had covered for my mistake, and I'd been careful since then. No more errors. No more distractions. In August, Lily started her junior year. New classes, new teachers, new routines. She joined the cross-country team, said she wanted to run, wanted to be tired enough to sleep without thinking. I understood that. She was quieter than before. Not sad, exactly, but more careful. She didn't talk about Vanessa or my father or the jewelry. She didn't ask about the divorce or the money or what would happen next. She just moved through her days with a kind of determined steadiness, like someone walking a path they couldn't see the end of. I recognized that too. One Saturday in September, I found her in the garage, looking at the storage bin I'd opened months before. Ellen's papers. The bin was still there, lid off, folders visible inside. What's this? Your mom's things. Documents, papers. I was looking for the insurance appraisal. Lily knelt beside the bin, started going through it. Tax returns, medical records, the thick folder from the hospice, and at the bottom, a smaller folder I'd forgotten about. She opened it. Inside were paint samples, a dozen of them, small squares of color on cardboard, greens, blues, one dusty rose. What are these? I crouched beside her. Your mom was going to repaint your room. She picked out colors the year before she got sick. She wanted to surprise you. Lily looked at the samples, touched one, a soft sage green, the color of new leaves. This one, she said. This was her favorite. How do you know? She circled it. Lily turned the sample over. On the back, in Ellen's handwriting, Lily's room. This one. I looked at the tiny exclamation point, the neat cursive. Ellen's hand, reaching across 2 years and everything that had happened since. Do you want to paint it? I asked. Lily looked at me. Her eyes were wet, but she was almost smiling. Yeah, she said. I do. We went to the hardware store that afternoon. Bought 2 gallons of sage green, rollers, brushes, painter's tape, drop cloths. The kid at the paint counter asked if we wanted help loading it. Lily said no. She carried the paint herself. We spent the weekend on her room. Moved the furniture to the center, covered it with sheets, taped the trim, laid the drop cloths, opened the windows. The smell of paint filled the house. Clean, chemical, the smell of new things. Lily did most of the work. I cut in the edges, but she rolled the walls, slow and careful, making sure the color was even. She didn't talk much. Neither did I. We just worked, side by side, while the afternoon light moved across the floor. By Sunday evening, it was done. We put the furniture back, remade the bed, took down the tape. The room looked different, brighter, cleaner, more like something that belonged to Lily, and not just to the girl she'd been before. She stood in the doorway, looking at it. "It's good," she said. "Yeah, it is." She turned to me. "Thanks, Dad." I nodded. There was more I wanted to say. That I was sorry. That I should have protected her better. That I missed Ellen too, every day, in ways I couldn't explain. But the words felt too big for the moment. So I just put my hand on her shoulder, and she leaned into me, and we stood there for a while, looking at the green walls and the lavender comforter, and the room that was finally hers again. The jewelry went back in the safe. I kept it there, behind the new digital code, in the closet of the master bedroom. Sometimes I opened it just to look, the bracelet, the earrings, the empty space where the ring should have been. Proof that Ellen had existed. Proof that I'd kept my promise mostly. The check for the ring went into a savings account for Lily. I didn't tell her about it. She'd find out eventually, when she was older, when she needed it. For now, it was enough to know it was there. My father's porch light stayed on. I saw it every night when I took out the trash, when I pulled into the driveway, when I stood at the kitchen window doing the dishes. Always on, the way it had been since my mother died. I didn't go over. He didn't come over. He didn't. The 30 feet between our houses might as well have been 30 miles. On Christmas, he left a card in our mailbox. I recognized his handwriting on the envelope. I put it in a drawer without opening it, next to Vanessa's wedding ring. Maybe I'd read it someday. Maybe I wouldn't. Either way, it could wait. In March, a year after everything started, I was standing at the kitchen sink, washing the dishes from breakfast. Lily had already left for school. She ran in the mornings now, before class, said it helped her think. The house was quiet. Sunlight came through the window, pale and cool, the light of early spring. A cardinal landed on the windowsill. It was a male. Bright red, black mask, the kind you see on Christmas cards. It sat there for a moment, head tilted, looking at me through the glass. Then it pecked at the sill once, twice, like it was testing something. I stood still, didn't move, didn't breathe. The cardinal stayed for 10 seconds, maybe 15. Then it flew off. A red streak against the gray sky, gone before I could track where it went. I thought about Ellen, the way she used to stop whatever she was doing when she saw a cardinal in the yard. "They're good luck," she'd say. Or maybe they're messages. I can never remember which. I didn't know either. I didn't know if it meant anything. The bird, the window, the morning light. Maybe it was just a cardinal looking for food. Maybe it was something else. I finished the dishes, dried my hands, closed the window, slowly, so I wouldn't startle anything that might come back. The kitchen was quiet. The house was quiet. Outside, the trees were starting to bud, the first green of the year pushing through the gray. I stood there for a while, looking out at the yard, at my father's house in the distance, at the fence post where the cardinal had landed the night Lily walked out of his living room. Then I picked up my keys and went to work.